Hold on. I'll see.
We're live. Hey, Facebook.
Hey, y'all. Hello, everyone. We thank you so much for coming. We got a beautiful special guest, but we're going to introduce everybody else first. So, well, there goes our sister. So we'll admit her while we begin. Cherie is coming in. We got Tanya. Cherie. Cherie is here, but
hey.
Tanya, you're here. Maggie,
hey.
Say hello to the people. And Cherie, she's here. Welcome back, sis. Got your hair done. Look at everybody got their hair done. That's good, you know. And of course, I'm Victoria L, and we have the amazing Makia. Y'all know her as Powers, okay? But Makia Still, but she's gonna talk about how she went from Powers to Still. So we want to welcome her so she can just give us her story. So Makia, it's on you.
All right. Well, Maggie, I'm so excited to, and Victoria, thank you all so much for trying to just talk about this topic, because as I was talking to Victoria, I've been single longer than I've been married. And so getting married at a later age, meaning anything over 35, is a very different ball game when you're watching continual people around you, and how to navigate that is something that I'm very passionate about. I was saying that the first thing is sometimes we can over spiritualize the weight, and I was never one of those people. I said, I am human and I'm lonely and I know God is God, but in my human nature, that does not take away from the fact of what you are going to be feeling in the moment and in the waiting, because the waiting is not easy. The first aspects of the waiting is just your own personal, like, oh my goodness, like every Valentine's Day, I'll be crying and having a heart attack, and my parents sending me Valentine's. Like, you're our Valentine.
Shout out to the parents. I mean, my daddy doing it too. Every year, it's in the corner. Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's the personal waiting of just like, man, like when I was 18, in my brain, I was thinking, oh, by the time I'm 35, I'm going to be like married for a long time. I would have already had my kids. And so all of those internal conversations that you had is already hard too, because you're sitting here thinking that you would have been further along. What makes it harder for me too, was that all of my friends, watching every single stage, like, okay, I'm a bridesmaid. Okay, watching them get married. Okay, now they have kids. Oh, now they got divorced. Oh, now they remarried. I was like, how are people getting remarried? And I'm not even on the first marriage.
Wow.
So, it doesn't, all of these things you don't even really think about, right? Is that, the internal conversations that you have with yourself about, okay, am I doing something wrong? Because clearly I feel like I can't go out and seek the person because I want to be spiritual and say the man finds the wife. But, you have to be realistic too and say, well, I'm not going to necessarily, put myself out in that sense, but it's hard because you feel like you want to be able to do something. And so that's kind of like the first level of year after year, weight after weight. You're like, okay, this is just getting harder and harder. And so one of the things is I surrounded myself with a group of, kind of like, are you all, a group of women who were actually going through the same thing. So like at my church, I had a small group at my house, and it was all women who were single, who were in the wait, and we met weekly. And that really helped, because before I had been doing this by yourself, and you're just like, that makes it even harder. But then it made it a little bit better, because I was like, okay, I'm not the only one dealing with this, over 35 and still not seeing anyone. And so that's the first level, right? The second aspect is the externals. And when I say the externals, I'm talking about the parents, the aunties, the friends, the play aunties who are like, how are you not married? You're such a great person. I don't understand. And I was like, you know what?
Yes, girl.
That's a whole nother level of just, already, personally, like when we're talking about, like the internal conversations you're already having, saying, am I doing something wrong? Like, I'm waiting, I'm lonely, I really want someone, I want a Christian person, all of these other things. And then you have the external people who are like, well, we don't know, like, why, what's going on? And so I said, you know what? I started telling people who kept asking me that and asking me that and asking me that. I said, you know what? I had to just get kind of not mean, but mean. Like, you just take it up with God. I think you need to just pray on that, because I don't have the answer for you. Like, I don't have the answer for you. I don't know why I'm not married. So you need to take that up with God, And so that, I think people don't realize, they're trying to be nice and saying, oh, you're so great and you're this and you're that. I was like, but that's actually making it worse, because we're already internally in our head thinking, well, I think I'm okay. Clearly I'm not, because nobody's seeing me and I'm sitting here looking at this clock like, what's going on? So I think those are the two biggest aspects of what the waiting was in my own life was. And obviously there's the bigger side, which is the spiritual side, which, very spiritual person. So I know all about, I think I read the story of like Hannah and Sarah, and like, was like, well, they had to wait.
Girl, we just read that, girl. We just read that. Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, so that's like the third aspect of I look at it, is like, okay, what was my spiritual journey in this wait? And it was hard. I had some hard conversations with God. I was like, look, I'm tired. I think once I hit 35, I was like, okay, look, this is getting a little out of hand. This is getting out of hand. Like, I want to get married. I want to have kids. So the medical side of me is like, okay, come on. We got to do something. And so, and I don't want to, I don't downplay the wait at all, because it's probably the hardest thing I've ever had to endure, and that's what it is. It's enduring, and it is grueling. It is hard. It is something that, yes, you're going to get through, but like in the midst of it, it's like, oh my goodness, if I see one more announcement of an engagement, if I see one more person getting married, if I see one more person who, I knew was previously married, already got their kids, divorced, remarried with another kid, I'm like, I just, in my spirit, I had to just take a step back.
So, Dr. Makia, I got a question for you. When you say enduring was the hardest, like that waiting process was the hardest thing for you, how do you, when people say you should be enjoying your singleness, this is the best time that you should be enjoying, that you have the freedom to do whatever you want to do. But on the flip side, you said that was the most enduring struggle. How did you balance that?
So I have to say, I did a whole lot of everything when I was single. Like, that's the one thing I did take advantage of. I was like, well, if I'm not going to be up here with anybody, I'm going to make sure I'm doing a lot of stuff. So my social calendar, and this is, I can't even understand, I don't think I could be able to endure it in this COVID situation, because how I had it, I had a really strong group of people that I was around, and we went everywhere. I was like, I hosted things at my house. I was like, we're gonna have movie nights. And I strategically invited people who were, I knew, like, godly people who might have a friend who could bring a friend, because I was intentional. Like, I was like, we're gonna have fun, but I'm gonna be intentional about, so I became the hosting house. Like, they were like, okay, what you having now? Okay, well, we're gonna have a movie night. We're gonna have a game night. We're gonna have this, and we're gonna go out to dinner, and it'd be, some of the guys that became my really great friends at church who were God fearing. I'm like, bring some of your friends. All right, so it became like I was very intentional about that. I traveled. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go. My husband now says, you've been everywhere. I was like, well, I had a lot of time to go places. You weren't here. So I traveled. I did mission trips. I did, I picked up a whole bunch of hobbies. I learned how to knit, crochet, and I have the knitting part. I probably would be like, well, that was fun. But my dad, who, is a very spiritual pastor and spiritual person, told me when I lived in Boston and I started knitting, he said, you know what, Makia? My God is a good God. He can do anything. But I don't think that your husband won't find you and knock on your door while you sitting in your house knitting. So at some point, you have to be, you cannot stay inside, right? And so I was like, okay, right. So yes, hobbies, but I tried to balance that with, I'm going to did I get another master's? I got a master's. I was like, I'm just gonna be doing stuff, right? So
Wow.
I made sure that when I look back on that time, how many continents I went to, what I traveled, what all of the experiences that I did was great, because I was like, I'm not gonna allow this time of being alone make me feel lonely. Right? Like loneliness versus being like I'm physically like alone, meaning like there's no one beside me, but I'm not going to allow the spirit of loneliness, which that happened a lot. That happened quite a lot, where I had to say, okay, I need to set my mind right. You know, when they say, you know, set your mind on things above and set your mind on, you know, if there's anything good, if there's anything pure, if there's anything right, like think on those things. Like I literally had to do that, because there was a point when I hadn't moved back to Atlanta, where I was up in Boston with no family and alone with no partner. I said, this is getting a bit much, to where I said, I need to change my mind and how I frame this waiting, and what do I need to do in the waiting. I read a lot of books. I have since given them away, because I moved into a house and I was like, okay, that was a season. But I was reading books like preparing myself. Like I didn't want to be arrogant to say, oh, well, I've already gotten it all together, because we don't. So I said, okay, I'm going to be filling myself with the word. I'm going to be filling myself with, you know, with books, with spiritual Christian books that are talking about the waiting, what you're doing. And so that's what I did. Like I said, the emotional aspect, that's how I balanced that and not allow the loneliness, because that happens, to consume me, because it can, if you don't actively make sure you don't, you know, that you're doing things to, you know, to fulfill yourself other than that. So to answer your question.
Well, I mean,
all right. So how did you meet your husband?
Yep, we want to know.
How did it all come together?
So this is funny. So I was working at the medical school. I was teaching at a medical school, and I had just started there 6 months. This was 2010. I started teaching. In 2011, earlier in the year, I think that summer, I said, oh, who is this person? There was a project that we had to do, and we got kind of thrown into doing this project. It was kind of under duress. It was like rushed, and they were like, you got to get this done. So I was like rushed, and I saw him. I was like, okay, so first of all, you 6'4", which is already on my list. I was like, okay. And people who telling you you can't have a list, whatever. I was like, Lord, you a God of specifics, and you know I'm 5'11", so please do not send me somebody who's 5'3". I mean, I can make it work. I can make it work, but
I want
preference. So I was already kind of like, oh, okay, he cute, all right. But I didn't have enough mental capacity to be like, okay, we were on this project, we got to do it. And come to find out, that was in 2011, like May 2011. When I tell you that we saw each other around campus all of this time, and he told me after the fact, we didn't go out on our first date until 2014, the end of 2014. Wow. So when we finally went out, because we talked and whatever before in passing, and he said, yeah, you know, when I first met you, I thought you were married. I said, why do you think you're married? He said, well, because you had a ring on your finger. I was like, which finger? Because I was like, I didn't have a wedding ring on my finger. He's like, well, you had a ring on your finger. I was like, oh, because I know I had a promise ring, but I was like, I think I had it on my right hand. I was still like, I told my whole small group, I was like, look, take off all your jewelry. Take it all off. Because clearly it took, by the time he found out I wasn't married, he was already dating somebody. Wow. So and I didn't know this because we were just like in passing, I would see him, we would chit chat and all this other stuff. So when I always thought to myself, I was like, Lord, I want there to be someone who we were already friends, you know, like the prayers. I was like, not realizing that that's actually what happened. We were like acquaintances. We would josh and choke with each other. And then it was finally where he said, hey, the Atlanta Food Truck Festival, whatever it's called, is coming. he's like, well, because you don't want to go with anybody. I said, are you asking? Because you never asked. You never asked.
That
And
sounds
so
like
he's
Sheree.
like,
That sounds
okay,
like Sheree,
well,
baby.
can you come? I was like, actually, I'm busy because remember I had a lot of stuff, so you can't be too available. You can't.
Yeah, they play full.
Right. So he asked, and I was like, actually, I actually have plans. I was in a dance company, so I was in a Christian dance company, so we were doing performances and all this other stuff. So the second time he asked me to go with him somewhere, thank God he was persistent. I said, I'm so sorry. I literally have a dance performance and I can't go. And so the third time he asked me, it was closer to Thanksgiving, Christmas. And I know our dance company was dancing at some church. And so he said, are you available Saturday, whatever it is? I said, you know what? I can meet you during the day. I have a performance that night, but I can meet you during the day, like at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. And so that was at the College Football Hall of Fame because he didn't tell me where we wanted to go.
Oh
and
my God, it's amazing.
It was low key, but I was like, thank goodness he was persistent, right? Because I didn't want to feel like every time he asked me, I was like so busy, but I also didn't want to be too available. And I wasn't I was doing things. To your point, Maggie, I was like, no, I'm not going to be sitting around here waiting just to be sitting here. So that was a balance too. So I think that was the end of 2014. Now, when I was at my church, still single, I went to every single class that they had on courtship, on relating or dating, preparing for marriage. I was literally from 2011 or 2010 when I joined the church all the way up to 2014 was going through these things, working on myself. And so I told him up front, I said, look, after a couple of times that we had just gone places, I said, I just want to let you know that I believe in courtship. Like I don't really believe in dating. And he was like, okay, I had to explain all of that. And I said, dating is like, okay, I'm going with you, I'm having fun, whatever. I said, courtship is a change, it's a shift. It's like we are intentional about what a potential end game is going to be, which is, marriage. And I said that, and I said, we can have fun. We can do this. I was like, I don't think I gave him a hug until I don't even know, like 6 months in. I was like, nah, I ain't we're trying to keep this. I'm going to get to know you in group settings. And we can do that. And so he jokes that I kept saying, I kept telling him, well, I don't know what you want. Meaning like, you need to tell me what you want. Like, I can go to this basketball game with you. That's great. But, I need for you to tell me what you want. And so probably right around the spring of 2015, that's when he said, okay, we were still like talking, and he said, I really want to pursue this courtship thing that you're talking about. Like, what do I need to do? I said, you can go and sit down and talk to my dad and ask him to officially court me. Now, mind you, I'm 36 at this time or whatever. How old was I? 35, 36? Yeah. He's like 38. So I'm asking not this 20-year-old, I'm asking this 20-year-old to go sit down with my dad, but my dad already knew that I've been going through these courtship classes, and I was like, this is how I want to do it. This is how I want to actually do this process. So he said, all right. So he went to my parents' house, and walk down this long little sidewalk to get to my parents' house. We had a great dinner. We weren't even talking about anything. It was a Sunday dinner. And so my dad says at the end of dinner, he's like, so Darren, you said you requested this meeting. So what would you like to talk about? And I was like, all right, here we go. And so he said, well, I really want to pursue your daughter for more than just dating. And I want this to be an official courtship. And so my dad said, okay, all right. And so they had a conversation. And then shortly after that, we had already decided that there was a courtship, there was a premarital session class literally about to happen within the next month. So once he asked my dad that, now mind you, he didn't ask to marry me. He just said, I want to officially court your daughter. So I said, okay. So we then went through the premarital class. We were not engaged because my dad had already told me, he's like, I think most people do premarital as kind of just the step after they get engaged. He was like, ideally, you need to do that before you get engaged so you can see and God can reveal, is this what you need to be doing?
Like that piece of
And
advice.
so we went through the 2 months, what was it? Almost 2 months of the premarital courses. I think it was maybe like 6 weeks.
Wow.
Every week. And we had, homework that we had to do with each other each session. And that really taught us a lot. And so we finished that in, I think it was November. A lot of stuff happened. His father passed away right in the middle of us doing that. He had to put his cat to sleep. There was so much in it. The enemy literally was trying every single thing because he's probably like, why are they doing this? This is to make something stronger. And I don't want a strong marriage. So everything was getting thrown at us like during that 6 weeks. And our small group leaders told us, they were like, this is going to be testing because the enemy does not want to see this. This is how you all want to do this. And the enemy doesn't want to see strong marriages. So we finished that at around November-ish, 2015. I was like, okay, I'm waiting for the proposal now. Right? So then I'm like, so cut to, it took some months. So I kept my nails done every week, and I don't even get my nails done like that. I kept my nails done every single week I was like, oh, it's probably gonna be Christmas. Oh, maybe it's New Year's. Oh, January, February. And I was like, okay. So he called me on this random like Sunday where he was about to pick me up from church. He's like, I don't feel well. I threw my back out. Can you come over here and bring me some ibuprofen? I was like, I was in doctor mode. I was like, all right, let me go in. I was all fully dressed up and got to his house. And I was like, I go to the door and it's all of these like handmade signs, like, please enter here. And I was like, what? I was like, why is this door open? And I was like, oh, fool, you're about to get proposed to, because it didn't hit me until like all the flowers were going up in each different room with each different step. And I was like, what's going on? So I was dressed up because he had already met with my parents who were going to meet us at brunch afterwards. So he chose a Sunday because he knew I was going to be dressed up. And so that was kind of our full engagement story. And then I told him that was March 2016. I was like, all right, so yeah, I'm 30, whatever, 38 there now. I was like, all right, so I don't believe in long engagements. So we get married in October. So we got engaged in March and married within like 6 months. I had already started planning in my head. I was like, okay, I already know a couple of places and then go from there. So yeah, that's a little bit about so yeah, I did like know him beforehand, but I didn't know that he was going to be the person, And so that's the other thing is like, be aware of your surroundings, but don't be like, well, I wonder if he's the one, because then, just be aware that, how you present yourself in all settings, really.
Right.
So that's kind of our story. But I'm here to encourage them, like, you know what? God is a good God. He is faithful. He really is. But like I said, that journey is something that no one will understand unless you are literally going through it. And I still have my 10 out of the 13 women that were in my little small group are still right now currently unmarried. So for me, my heart is like, oh my goodness, this has been literally like 10 years ago, because I started my small group in 2010. So all of my friends who were about to turn 30 and they were single are now all about to almost turn 40. And I'm like, Lord, so it is a passion of my heart to say, you know what? That's what I pray for. I pray for a divine, for God to be putting you all in divine places so that your husband can see where you are. Right. You are just there, and that's why I just pray that as you all continue to work on your spiritual lives and doing all the things that you want to do, is that you be mindful and be intentional about the places that you're going, intentional about all of those things, because, that's what I did. Sometimes you have to be intentional. I had done, let's see, did I do online dating when I was in Atlanta? I did not. I think once I moved back down here, I tried it up in Boston. I was like, ugh.
Right.
I dated one person for almost 2 years that I'd met online from
Oh, wow.
Boston. And that was kind of interesting. And his dad was like a pastor. And I was like, oh, I don't know how I found you like on the internet, but okay. But I was like, clearly it wasn't one. But I was like, oh, this is too much for me. So, I mean, I was just trying to do anything, right? And so sometimes when we're trying to force something to happen, that's sometimes the place where you like take your hands off. So when I moved back to Atlanta, no, I did not do online dating because I was like, okay, Lord, I'm gonna try your way. I don't know, because clearly,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here trying to pick, swipe, look. Okay, let me look at your profile. Let me see if my, and I'm like, okay, and that's fine. Like I said, I ended up finding a decent person, but that wasn't my person. And so sometimes if you're pushing, and that might be the direction for that some people are going to find their person. But what I'm saying is, if you're feeling like you are forcing something to happen and there's resistance, just be aware of that resistance, because that was something, especially in this kind of thing, where we may be like, oh, well, no, I'm not really pushing, and they're just not really resistance because we want it to happen. And if it's any other scenario other than like trying to find a partner, we'd be like, oh, yeah, no, Lord, okay, yeah, no, I'm not supposed to go that direction. But it's harder when it's about who you're supposed to be with. And I can recall those times when I was like, oh, yeah, that was a resistance point that I pushed past, talking about the person I dated in Boston. I was like, oh, because I didn't recognize the sign because I was so invested in trying to, make this happen because it's not happening. So,
well, Makia, how did you know? How did you know that he was the one? Right? We've heard husbands or guys talk about how they knew after the first date or whatever, but how did you know in this process that he was your one?
And that was, I think when we started going, because he didn't have a church home. I had a very strong church home. So I was like, you're more than welcome to come to my church home. And when we started going to church together, when I started seeing him around my community, because I was really about like, you're going to be around my community so my community can kind of be like, yes or no.
Right.
So I think that it was kind of a gradual thing of seeing how he interacted with my personal community, and then just how he treated me. And again, I've never been treated bad in any relationships, but it was just his approach to things. And I can't even pinpoint a moment where I was like, yep, this is the one. It just was like, okay, like you keep calling, you keep coming back, and we cool, and I really like this, and you're pretty to look at, and all of this, and you love God. Oh wow, okay, this is, and I try not to overthink because I overanalyze. So that's why I can't pinpoint a time, because I was like, okay, I almost was too reserved, and he even told me that. He said, well, you kept saying, I don't know what you want. And I was like, well, I was not trying to be forcing anything to happen because I can do that. So I had to remove any kind of, I was like, I'm just going to be present. I'm not going to be thinking about, okay, are you the one? Is this the one? I said, I'm just going to be present and allow God to show me what I need to see. and that's kind of what happened. Because I have in the past, like, okay, I'm gonna calculate, because then our kids are gonna look like this, and then we're gonna get married. And I've done that. And I was like, I can't do that. I need to take myself out of my brain when I do that, because you automatically, because I was telling Victoria, I was like, there had been years where it wasn't even like one date with anybody. So then I had to be really careful of being like, okay, it's been 2 days. Oh, okay, well then this, and you go so far beyond where you need to in your mind. Like this guy's probably like, this is only the third date. And I had to remove myself. It's like, just because I have not been dating a lot, like, some people just date. Some people just have a lot of dates. Like I never had a lot of dates. So I was like, I don't know. I was like, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know if that's a bad thing. But on the bad side is that if you're not used to quote like dating, like when it does come, you're like, oh, okay, all right, okay, let me hold tight. And it's like, no, I had to learn to like release the grip. It's okay, and just go with the flow and just see what the Lord is telling you. And so that's what I had to learn, because my experience was such that it was like, whoa, let's see, that date with him was what, 2014? I'd had one pseudo group date with this guy from church that my best friend Evelyn and I was like, all right, girl, he asked me to go. He asked me to go to the movies. So we going to the movies. We, meaning all three of us, we going to the movies.
Oh my gosh.
We going to the movies. It's group. Because I don't know. I'm like, no, we got to be accountable. And so I think it had been a good 3 years where I had not one date before, and when I finally went out with my husband. So it could literally have been sucking me into like, okay, I'm 37. All right, he done asked me. So I could have calculated all of those aspects of what could have happened. And so I had to take myself out of that, because I know that that's where it would have gone, because we want something so bad that it's, you could literally get inside your own head and create like this whole story before, like after a first date, and you're like, nope.
Right.
And that's what I had to learn too. It's just like, nope, release the grip. Yes, it could be exciting, but don't, release the grip. So
release the grip reminds me of saying relinquish control. We try and control the outcome.
Everything.
And we can't.
Yeah.
Let it go.
So that's where we are.
And you have a child, right? How old were you when you had your child?
So I had him 2 months before my 40th birthday, my first child.
Wow. All right.
So I spent my 40th birthday, he was, I had all these plans too. I was like, for my 40th birthday, I'm going to be in Australia. My 30th birthday, I was in Japan. So I want to go somewhere fantastic. But then to God, I was like, okay, Lord, my husband planned this staycation at this hotel up in Buckhead. And my mom came and watched Mateo. He was about 2.5 months old. And so I was like, I'm not leaving him. I'm breastfeeding, so he gonna have to come with us. And so she came, stayed in the watched him in the hotel while we went down for a nice dinner and all of this other stuff. And that was my 40th birthday. But I was like, okay, Lord, but in context, right? Would I rather be single in Australia, or in this moment? I'm like, okay, you do all things well. You do all things well.
Amen.
So,
amen. You just gave us so many nuggets.
So, what
Beautiful
books
story.
were you reading during your single season?
Yes, and that's why I'm so sad that I like literally
gave more. Bye.
I will have to follow up, because I will have to.
Any one stick out to you the most? Like, what was one that was like, oh my gosh, like I will remember this?
I like Boundaries in Dating. I like that. There's one called Boundaries, and then there's one called Boundaries in Dating. I read that one a lot because I know I needed to make sure that I was appropriately setting boundaries. So that one was a really good one. What is her last name? She has a hyphenated last name, Hammond, Black sister. And now I'm going to have to remember, because I didn't come prepared and I've given all of them away. Not all of them. I think I have one or two of them left in the author, but I will definitely follow up with Victoria and give that, so that could be shared, because it literally helped. I did a lot of devotionals that were related. I kept all my devotionals, so I do have a list of that. So I have my devotionals, because I was like, I can't get. I was like, I just can't get those up, because those are my handwritten, things that kept me through. So I will compile that, send that to you.
Yes.
Or probably tonight after I put this man to sleep, because I know I hear him up there wilding out. But yeah, wow. So I do have to run, but if you want to bring me back and I can give more,
hello, yes,
just let me know.
I'm gonna let you know in enough time because you're a busy lady.
Yeah.
No. Oh, well, once he's in the bed, like it's fine, and I can be prepared to bring some something.
Right.
So maybe next time I can bring some of the nuggets of like maybe the books that I learned, books that I had, and like what aspects, to kind of go from there. So you just let me know how you want to do it. If you want to do another one of this, or if we can take it offline and I can just give you my resources. It doesn't
No, because
matter.
everybody else need to hear it too.
Yeah.
Okay, well then
Everybody else.
we will do another one then.
Yes, we're gonna do another one. So you gotta let me know your
Yes.
schedule.
We love it.
We're so grateful to have you on here. I mean, Makia has known us since we were young. She
I
raised my brother, Chad. She, she's in this again, the cathedral connection.
Yep.
So we're just grateful that you're here, and hopefully some people got some things. And the most important thing I heard was just you just gotta chill out. You just gotta wait. You just have to chill. Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Back, because I know I'm analytical as well. I'm like, oh, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I can't do that.
Right.
And let God do what he say he gonna do. If he said he gonna do it, he'll do it. So
And before she hops off, Makia, you had Letitia Davis in the room. You have Jason Smith. Everybody saying, "Hey, Makia, I love you." Shout out. She was like, you made her go to an HBCU. You took her on a tour in Spelman, so you got your fan club and your love from Cathedral back in the day. So.
Nice.
yes, we all love you, Makia. We appreciate
Right.
you. It'd be nice to have you and your husband on there because I want to hear what he got to say too. Like how he
And he's
found
calling
you.
me now, so I know I gotta run.
Bye,
All
Bye,
right.
Makia. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you for coming.
Bye.
Thank you so much.